Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm reviewing all of Paul McCartney's albums. I've already reviewed his studio album Egypt Station, I reviewed Wings London Town, and I'm going right back to the beginning of the Beatles. 1963, Please Please Me. Now just to emphasise, I'm not an expert. I know some of these tracks, some of them I'm coming to for the first time. I'm just going to rate them as to how much I like them, how much I enjoy them. And I look to you as my subscribers and viewers to add any bits of information or to correct me on anything I've got wrong. So let's get going with this classic album. Well, it's good to start with I Saw Her Standing There, because regular viewers will know I'm also reviewing all of Elton John's studio albums, and Elton performed this song with John Lennon in a live concert in the United States. He also performed it on his 1982 UK tour. In fact, I was there to see him sing this in Birmingham in the UK. So what makes this such a special song? Well, when you listen to this album, the first thing that strikes you, especially in its remastered version, is the beautiful, crisp, clear sound. You can hear the sort of natural sound of the musicians, natural sound of the singers, and their talent really comes through, doesn't it? And it was a glorious time, this early 1960s, for these bands, and how they're playing, the music they were developing, and this really wonderful, classy sound that comes across, a very natural sound. So Paul wrote this song. It's a simple song about somebody spotting somebody on a dance floor, wanted to go over to them even though they're only 17. And I suppose you could say it is similar in a sense to a 12-bar blues sort of structure. But it goes slightly different, doesn't it? It goes slightly different, especially when he sings, I couldn't dance with another. He changes the chord there. I think it goes from a G down to an E flat or something. It's just a little bit unexpected, and that's what makes this song just a little bit better than kind of your standard 12-bar blues. We know the story with the lyrics. That second line they played with, it turned down into, well, you know what I mean. I think John was influential in that. There's some delicious drumming, delicious bass in this. There's really the 60s dance feel about it. You can feel the atmosphere of the dance hall. Lovely guitar solos in this, and it has a natural ending as well rather than a fade out. And I like songs that come to sort of a natural conclusion to them. If you get a chance on YouTube, you can listen to the different takes of this song and how many it took to get it right. And you can hear Paul making various comments in that, in terms of which ones were best and which things they had to do again. I think they ended up with a couple of bits spliced together to get this track. Anyway, it's a great start to the album, isn't it? That's my reviewing system, by the way, all the way from Terrible up to Out of This World. As I've explained before, I don't give much at the top here because I want to save that for the best songs. But this is one of the best on the album, if not the best. So I'm going to award this one very good and give it 7 marks out of 10. Track number 2 is Misery, described perhaps as a John song rather than a Paul song. This was the Beatles' first attempt really at a ballad. It's got simple, heartfelt lyrics, a pleasant beat. It's got a mixture of major and minor keys. It was recorded in 1963 by Kenny Lynch, who was a singer from the 1960s and was their first song to be covered by another artist. Paul has said it was our first stab at a ballad, and it's about adolescent self-pity. A nice song, this one, a little bit of a curio, I suppose. Not an outstanding track, but an interesting one. I think for me, an average one, and I give it 4 marks out of 10. Track number 3 is a cover of an Arthur Alexander early soul ballad. Again, that's worth watching on YouTube as well. A delightful version there. It's called Anna Go to Him. Now, we have some great clarity here on John's vocal, and there's early indications here of a great passion and emotion in his voice. He's showing that prowess very early, and it sounds really good. People are tussling over Anna, who's going to be successful in kind of capturing her heart. It's a delicious cover version. It sounds almost more like a 50s song than a 60s in a way. Nice backing vocals as well. I'm going to rate this as a fairly good track, and I'm going to award it, when I find the right card, 5 out of 10 for fairly good. And again, if you're new, just to let you know, I don't give everything 10 out of 10. I watch some videos and everything gets 10 out of 10 on people's reviews. And I think, well, how can that all get 10 out of 10? So I'm going up and down my scale and saving those really top marks for extra special tracks. Track number 4 is a track called Chains. This is another cover version of a Goffin and King song. We've got the harmonica coming in here, which is pretty pleasant, and voices together on the refrain, creating a nice bit of harmony. George is taking the vocal on this one and sounds really good. You know, these voices were so strong, weren't they? The solo verses, maybe I thought, were a little bit more interesting than the refrain. The refrain less interesting, perhaps a little bit sort of blandish and banal. And the whole thing is just maybe just a little bit static, perhaps not their greatest cover version, but still I'm going to say it's an average track and give it 4 marks out of 10. Ringo takes the lead vocal on track number 5, Boys. This is another cover version, this time of a Shirelles song written by Dixon and Farrell. It's got that sort of Bob Schwab sort of type of backing in there. It sort of feels a bit late 50s, early 60s. Reminds me a little bit of that song, The Best Things in Life Are Free, that Money song. Ringo gives a good lead vocal actually to this, and you know, in a way it's surprising we didn't hear more of him on the vocals, and it shows what, you know, a flexible group the Beatles was, what a collection of skills involved in that, both vocally and on their instruments. It's an exciting presentation of this song, nice guitar solos and even some screams going on there, so I'm going to rate this as a fairly good track and give it 5 marks out of 10. Track number 6 is Ask Me Why. Now this is John taking the lead on this one. It's a McCartney and Lennon composition. It's about Why I Love You. It's another romantic song, a little bit more misery in this one as well. We've got a good impassioned lead vocal from John. It's a delightful song that is obviously in very good hands. Okay, the lyrics are fairly simple, but we know at this stage that the record companies were really looking for hits with catchy tunes that would work as singles. Nobody really expected any great depth in the lyrics at that time, although there are hints in this album of things to come where songwriting could become a little bit more introspective. So at the time, you know, it was kind of, you know, let's write some words to go with this wonderful tune. Maybe, perhaps I'm being oversimplistic. But this is still a nice period piece, this one. It sounds really good. Another fairly good track for me. I give it 5 out of 10. Track number 7 is the title track, Please Please Me. John and Paul taking the lead vocals on this. It's a double vocal in a way, with one of the singers taking everything on the same note at the start. Quite a radical thing to do, I suppose, although maybe after a while that jars a little bit. We've got a nice harmonica on here that John was playing, and the come-ons in this are quite shocking, aren't they? And this again gives it this distinctive impression and makes it memorable and why it was such a hit. Again, they're doing an exciting treatment here. Perhaps not the most exciting song, but because of the quality of the performance on this, it does raise it above the average. You know, you can see this group is going places. I reviewed some of the ABBA albums as well, and some of the early ABBA albums are quite uneven, but there's just glimpses of that brilliance, which coming to maturity maybe in their 4th or 5th album. So I'm going to rate this as a good song, Please Please Me, and give it 6 marks out of 10. Track number 8 is Love Me Do. John and Paul sharing the vocals on this one when Paul goes singing over John's harmonica for the Love Me Do lines. This has a great beat. It's got this 2-voice harmony. I find this a much more interesting song actually than Please Please Me. Again, it's distinctive and clear. It's got a simple lyrical message and a spare, clean, unmessy presentation that just works, that just sums up that time. It's a glorious sound, this one. You know, wonderful drumming going on there as well, crisp and clear coming through. So a very good song, I reckon. Possibly the best on the album. I give it 7 out of 10. Track number 9 is P.S. I Love You. Paul takes the lead vocal on this, and this is another Lennon-McCartney composition. It's a sweet love song, and it's based on letters. And of course, the Beatles did some later letter writing songs as well, quite popular at the time. There's some interesting harmonies on this, I notice, a little shocking in a way, and a little radical. And it shows that the Beatles were prepared to kind of break the norm, break that pattern, go unexpected places, both in their melodies and in their harmonizations. It's a moving song. It's about keeping all my love forever. There's a tenderness in there. So we're showing immediately here that the Beatles can rock and they can be tender. And those two combinations, if they're strong, stand for longevity in singing. Because we find that with Elton John as well. He's able to write in those two genres very comfortably. So a lot of promise here what's to come. Maybe not the greatest of songs, but still for me a fairly good song, and 5 marks out of 10. Track number 10 is another cover, Baby It's You. This is of a Bacharach and David song, and I'm a huge fan of Bacharach and David. I think they're brilliant songwriters. And it's quite a distinctive Bacharach and David song. And it shows, in a way, how advanced their songwriting was for the time that this came out. John takes the lead vocals on this. It's obviously a superior song, but it doesn't quite sound like a Beatles song. I'm glad we've got it, though, because it's interesting to have a Beatles cover of a Bacharach and David song. And it's a good attempt at a very good song. So not typical of the album, but I would still say it's a fairly good track, and award this one 5 out of 10. Track number 11 is Do You Want to Know a Secret? Another Lennon and McCartney composition, sung by George, but covered by Billy J. Kramer. Now, I have an interesting link to Billy J. Kramer because he's actually from this town. He's from this place where I live. He had a hit with this in the 1960s. And this has a delicious opening verse, a series of questions, and they often work well in a song. And we can see here just the beginnings of storytelling songs. So this is not just somebody saying, I love you, I want you. They're weaving a story into it. Okay, it's quite basic at the moment. It doesn't particularly go anywhere. But, there's much more happening here than just a simple love song. The second verse builds nicely. Maybe the bridge passage here is not quite as strong as the rest of the song. That's just slightly what lets it down. But I still think it's a fairly good song, and I'll give it 5 marks out of 10. Track number 12 is A Taste of Honey. Now, this is a cover of a song that was originally written as an instrumental for a Broadway play by the same name in 1958. There's a nice cover on YouTube of Herb Albert's Tijuana Brass playing this. It then got some words, and it's then been covered by the Beatles. It's a pretty song. And there's a trick duet going on here, apparently. Paul is double tracked on this to get that effect. It's not quite the most comfortable cover version, I would say. Maybe the blend of instruments that the Beatles had is not totally suited to this song. I don't particularly like the way Paul sings Honey on this. It's just a little bit too fast, maybe. I don't know what you think about that. But still, it's an interesting oddity to have on the album. And I would say it's an average track, and give that one 4 out of 10. So track 13 is There's a Place. Now, when I saw the lyrics of this, I was really excited because this is quite a departure from other songs that are on this album. It's written by John, and it's really an introspective song that looks at the idea of retreating to a safe place inside your head. When things get difficult, there's a safe place inside there. And this is pretty unusual for pop at that time to have such a kind of a deep thought in it. Maybe developed in later songs such as In My Life or Strawberry Fields. So it's quite a mournful start. The lyrics are interesting. The melody is okay, but not a classic, and perhaps doesn't quite stand up to the quality of the words in this. And this may have influenced other artists such as Brian Wilson, possibly on some Beach Boys songs. So I'm going to rate this as a fairly good track and give it 5 marks out of 10. So the final track 14 is Twist and Shout. Now this is a cover version, of course. I watched the one by the Isley Brothers in 1962. The Beatles increased the speed of it quite considerably from the Isley Brothers version, which is still very good. John Lennon called it a frantic vocal. Apparently this was all done in a single take. They tried a second one, but he'd used up all his energy by then. It's obviously very exciting. There's great energy in this. It was a regular live track, and you can imagine those 60s crowds really loving the excitement of this performance. So it's obviously a good track. I'm going to give it 6 marks out of 10. So on my ranking system, my ratings have given me 73 marks for 14 tracks of music, an average of 5.21 marks per track. That puts it between a fairly good and a good album, which I think is pretty fair reflection for the first Beatles album. Obviously some great things to come on that. Let's have a look at the league tables. Now, I've reviewed 48 Paul McCartney tracks so far on the 3 albums, and these are the tracks in order, and you can see 2 new entries there coming in the 7s. I Saw Her Standing There and Love Me Do. So just going through the tracks now, I've got nothing lower than a 4, so everything has been either average or above that, so some good tracks encountered so far. And I've just reviewed the 3 Paul McCartney albums so far. I've still got Egypt Station in there, 5.57. Really like that one. Please Please Me is 5.21. And the London Town album, and another good one, 5.08 per track. So I'll just do a quick best and worst. Probably the worst moment of the album. Well, there isn't really a bad moment, is there? Maybe the cover of A Taste of Honey is not quite as strong as the other tracks. The other best moment, I'm going for John's harmonica on Love Me Do, and that moment when Paul sings alone Love Me Do. It's so distinctive, isn't it, of that time, and a beautiful moment in a classy song. So that's it for now, friends. Thanks for watching. What's your favourite track on this album? Please let me know. Also, if you disagree with any of my ratings, let me know as well. I'll be back with another Paul McCartney review very soon. Thanks for watching.